And a very good evening to you all. Welcome to the Pro Synth Network live show. It's Sunday the 6th of September. This is episode 23. We're rattling through them. We'll soon be into our half century, probably by the end of the year. I don't know how that works, how many weeks we've got until then. What are we now? September, October, November, December? Maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, it's too late in the evening for me to do maths. If you... For those observant amongst you, you'll see there's only me and him. No, him. That's that. Yeah, I'll have to get used to that as well. Yeah. Hi, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. I sound like I'm in some cathedral somewhere because I've moved into my new studio, which is totally untreated acoustically, and you can tell. So you'll have to bear with.
Well,
you'll have to bear with me.
I've seen the pictures, and it is looking impressive so far, and I'm incredibly jealous of all of that space. It's yeah. Your wife is a gem.
Coming. Yeah, I've waited a long time for some room. But,
so what was this room before you took it over?
It was a living room.
Right.
But we had two living rooms.
Ooh.
So
yeah.
So she very kindly donated this to me, and I've never had this much space before, so gotta get out gigging again.
I thought you all lived in 2 up, 2 down terrace streets up north.
It is a bit like that.
Oh, rubbish. He says in his echoing palace. Oh no, it's good. That's my big ambition has always been to have a place where I can have a nice big room, and I'll get there one day. I need it. No, it's good to hear, and we'll get like a virtual tour once it's done. You can get the camera and take us around and show us what's what. But keep posting on the thing, because I'm always interested in how people kind of set up their rooms and lay it out, because it's great for ideas. You know, I've stolen a number of ideas in my time, so it's useful stuff. So welcome to everybody in the chat room. Sasquatch, Inverted Popes, Gethsemane Music, Wagyu, Andrew Brooks. Blimey, you and I are going to get a reputation. We're together all the time. So yeah, this is Pro Synth Network Live, where we just kind of go over the week's topics over the next couple of hours, and we have a bit of banter and chat, and we will hopefully be joined by our other resident host, Cryss, over in California, but he's been doing Jamie's show, and hopefully we'll get him in once he's had a bit of a wee break and some sustenance. I'm sure he'll be doing what I call the Phil Collins thing. He starts off in one show and he's going to come and finish off in another, but he just doesn't have to get on Concord to do that. So Cryss will be hopefully along later on. You might notice, actually, look, slightly better picture here. So we are slowly improving quality, and that's good. We were trying some hardware setups with two computers, one handling Skype and another one handling this, but we didn't kind of have enough time to refine it. The audio wasn't playing, so we're back to normal, but fingers crossed we won't have any of those horrible issues that have beset us over the last few weeks. But please do let us know in the chat room if you do. Also, with regards to the chat room, if you want to ask us a question, get our attention, please do at us, so at ProSynth Network, or at Ben Simpson, or at Cryss Synthient when he turns up, and that way we will notice your comments, such as Andrew has been doing there. He says hi, and reputation, he's got one of those. I'm sure you have, sir. So yeah, please do make sure that you do that in the chat room, so that we don't miss your stuff, because we're all kind of busy delivering the show at the same time as trying to watch all of that. So Ben, let's see, what should we do first? I'm going to do this one because I have a long kind of relationship with this company. I love their products, or have loved their products for many years, and this is the new instrument from Reason Studios. I'm actually kind of getting into the habit now of calling them that, and not Propellerhead. So Reason Studios have introduced Friktion modelled strings. Now I've been playing with this for a long while, because I'm part of the test pilots program, as they call it, over in Sweden. and it's come on leaps and bounds. Originally it was just quite simplistic, and then the sounds became much better, and then they came up with this lovely interface that really allows you to specify all kinds of different functions within the instrument itself. So let me just zoom in on that. So as you can see, you can control vibrato, tremolo. You've got these kind of key ranges and legato settings, bowing, pluck settings, string settings with damping and harmonics, resonator bodies, reverb. You can double the amount of players that are playing that particular instrument, and a whole bunch of really cool stuff. And there's key switching here, so you can switch between plucks and tremolos and legatos and monos and vibratos and harmonics and all sorts of things very, very simply. And playing with this it's a real kind of joy. Now, the good thing about this now is that because of the Reason Rack plugin, which comes as part of Reason version 11, you can now host this not just in Reason, but also in external in other DAWs such as Cubase, Logic, etc. So, have you had a chance to listen to any of this stuff, Ben? Have you got any opinions on this?
I really like it, and I love the idea that you can use the Reason Rack now, in other DAWs, because I was never a fan of the Reason sequencer myself, so I'm really pleased about that. I used to like the rewire function, and I used to set it up just so I could use the rack, but it's a little bit cumbersome, isn't it? Saving two projects and remembering, which version goes with which and that. So that's a much better better idea. It sounds good. Obviously, I haven't used it. You're the one with the experience there, but the sound quality is great. I think you can only really tell when you're actually playing it yourself, can't you?
Yeah.
Really, but.
Yeah. It's very much a performance, it plays like a sample library, like if, for instance, if you're messing around with BBC SO or something like that, and you all the different nuances there, and it has a lot of that about it. It's very playable, which is nice, and of course the string model is. And modelling is a complex thing, but string modelling is one of the easier ones to do. So I guess this was a no-brainer to kind of start with. And I'm a huge fan of physical modelling, and it's nice to see that. But I'd like to see something a little bit more left field, a little bit more exciting, like with Korg or Yamaha's hardware stuff. You can combine things that don't naturally combine. So it's nice that it's used in a kind of traditional way, but I'd like to see that technology go beyond that. However, that said, this is a really nice thing to have. It's £99, euros, dollars, I think. Let me just zoom back out of that. So 99 to buy now, or you can download a trial. Of course, you do need to have Reason to get the Reason Rack plugin if you want to play it in something else. So that's kind of the dongle, if you will. You've got to have Reason to start with. But you can also do this thing here called Rent to Own, which is a nice different way of doing things rather than subscribe. I mean, you can subscribe and you can pay a fixed amount to Reason Studios to get access to a whole bunch of stuff. But you can also rent to own, which is like a finance deal. And so for this, you pay $7.99 a month. And at the end of the 13 months, it's yours. And that's it. There's no interest. It's just like rent to own. So I guess if you... Sorry, Ben, yeah?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a great idea. I'd like to see more software companies doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we've moved into this realm where we've got, you either buy the stuff or you subscribe to something, and there's arguments for and against both of those models. But this rent to own seems to be a nice kind of centre ground. you can buy something, get it now, and pay a small amount, and then at the end of 13 months or so, you get to keep it, and that's that. You've paid up, and you're away. So, and of course, if you apply that, maybe you get 5 or 6 instruments, then you might as well just buy one and wait. I don't know. I just think it's a nice way of doing it.
Yeah, I think it's really good, that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what about the options on the back of the rack? Because one of the greatest things about the Reason rack, I thought, was that you could flip it round and wire things in an unusual way. Is there any, how you was hoping for something a bit more left field?
Yeah.
Is there any possibilities with the reverse of the rack, maybe hooking it up to mad gear?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very simplistic on the rears. I've just put the shot up on the screen. So you have your CV and gate for sequencer control and pitch bend and mod wheel. So you can assign, you can route other things into the pitch bend and mod wheel settings, and then you've got external routing CV1 and 2, and then there's just the audio output. So there's not lots of different things on the back of this per se, but as is the way with Reason, you can wire this up quite freely. So you can, I mean, I haven't experimented in that regard, but yes, you could do that. So yeah, that's good. But yeah, it's £99 or euros or dollars, wherever you might be. It's a lovely thing. Shall we have a listen to what it sounds like? Let's do that.
Yeah.
And there's Ryan. This is the tutorial. Let's see. This is the demo. And it's buffering. That's great. Here we go.
There's nothing quite like it. The sound of a bow scraping across a string. It's the sound of friction. Expressive, emotive, dynamic. Strings can get to the heart of a musical idea, lifting it up, taking even a simple phrase, and bringing it to life. Introducing Friktion modeled strings, the sound of real strings in the Reason rack. With physical modeling controls for...
So there you go, that's the Reason Friktion model strings plugin. I think we can all agree that sounds pretty good.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, so if you have Reason, you can try it for 30 days, as you normally can with any of their rack extension plugins, and of course you can buy it outright for $99 or rent it for $7.99 a month for 13 months, and then it's yours to own. So that's pretty good. So there you go. That's one new instrument out of the way. We're going to do this next one. I think this is one that's dear to most people's hearts, and of course we'll probably throw up a range of different opinions. You might be able to tell what it is because my face is now glowing slightly orange from the large screen here. We're about to talk about the Jupiter 8 model expansion for the Roland Cloud for the Zenology plugin. This just follows the trend of taking the Jupiter 8 model and throwing it into the Zencore plugin and giving it this minimalist yet referential, shall we say, interface, which looks fine and operates just like all the others do. You can test drive it for free between September 1st and the 8th, so you've got until Tuesday to test drive it for free. And then, of course, you can, if you're a Roland Cloud subscriber, you can already have that in your kit. Now, I really haven't had a lot of time to dabble around with this. Have you? You're a Cloud subscriber, aren't you, Ben?
Yeah.
And have you had a chance to dabble?
Only a brief look, because I'm mid studio at the minute, so it's quite difficult. But I have had a little listen to it, and it sounds quite good. Again, it's got those characteristics. I don't know how it ranks against the circuit modelled version, but if they're not feature sounds, they're just building up the layers and that. I think it's really good, and another excellent addition to the cloud subscription, which just seems to be getting better value for money
Yeah.
each month, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Wagyu in the chat room says, why would you use the ABM Jupiter 8 on Roland Cloud when you already have access to the ACB? And this is the question that comes up every time we see these model expansions, because I think the general consensus is that they're not quite as good as the ACB models, but they are much more CPU friendly. So maybe that's your main reason for doing it.
Maybe having both when you're out on the move and whatever, gigging, and you get your laptop out, put some ideas down, you could use the ABM versions, and then when you get back to your studio and you've got a bit more processing power, swap them for the ACB. I think, like I say, feature sounds and that, if you haven't got a real Jupiter 8, use the ACB. And things in the background that you just want to give a bit of that Jupiter 8 flavour, but don't want to, set the smoke alarms off with your iMac or whatever, then I'd use the new versions.
It is what it is. We've discussed this, and we won't go over it again as to why we think they've gone this route. I still maintain that it's to get processor efficiency under control, get rid of the fancy graphics, excuse me, and have a platform that does more than what ABM did. ACB. I'll get them the right way around. It is what it is. But like you say, I think Roland Cloud subscribers now have a choice, and you use what you want to use. You're not paying any more for this. You're not going to save any money by not having it, so you might as well use it. And as you say, you either use the ABM version live and the ACB version in the studio, or you might want to use the ABM version for stuff that's just sitting lower down in the mix and you're not too fussy about. The choice is yours, I suppose. I guess they'll refine these. There'll be a version 1.1 or version 2 of this, and it might be better. I don't know whether the technology will allow for that, but there you go. Simon in the chat room is just asking about your ambience. Yes, he is in his new studio and he hasn't filled it up yet.
It's awful.
No, it sounds fine. Sorry, you were going to say?
I can't remember now. I've lost it. Completely lost it.
I should remember not to interrupt you. Yeah. Short term, my short-term memory's shot to bits these days.
Yeah.
I sat here, and I thought, right, I'm going to set up the features for tonight, and get them all, get them ready. And I thought this, and then I looked at something, and like 5 seconds later, I've pulled my chair up and I've sat up a bit more upright, ready to do something. I'm thinking, what was I supposed to be doing? Oh God, I was going to be doing something. And what I have to do now is kind of mentally retrace my steps. Yeah. And then eventually, I was supposed to do that. It's completely shot to bits.
I know it's completely off topic, but I found a pair of my underpants in the bin once. In the kitchen bin, because the washing machine used to be next to the bin, and I'd thrown them in my morning slumber going to the shower. Throw me undies in the bin.
Dear, oh dear, how did we get here?
I don't know.
I've just realised that I'm wearing the same t-shirt that I was wearing on Ranz's show yesterday afternoon. So I just want to reassure people that tune into both that I have not been wearing this all day. I just, it was on my chair and I thought, oh yeah, Synth show. I'll put my Synth t-shirt on, and it's that one. So don't worry, I do change, and still a bit fresh. So there you go. Just wanted to get that one out of the way. It's funny because we've rattled through the first two topics. It's only 20 past. It's because we don't have Cryss here. That's what we do miss him. We do miss him. Yeah. So there you go. That's the Roland Jupiter 8 model expansion for Zenology, and it's out now. You've only got a couple more days to get a free trial of that if you're not already a cloud subscriber. If you are, then it's already there for you to play around with, and lots of presets. And yeah, that's another thing that they've recently done. We might as well pad out for a bit of time here. So let me just call up the excuse me. Let's just call up the news section, because they did add a whole bunch of presets and another little kind of ancillary items. And it's taking an age to load the web page up now. That's great, because everyone's going on there to have a look. Look at this. This is great TV, isn't it? Well, take my word for it. They did. They released some stuff. We've gone back to the... It's not going to happen, is it? Let's try. Let's do a quick refresh. No. Okay, we don't do that then. Sorry, Roland. If your screen doesn't want to work, then I don't want to promote your stuff. But yes, take my word for it. There's some new expansion packs, and there was one expansion pack in there that was called. It began with a B and it ended in ER, and I thought for a moment I thought, oh my God, Roland are having a pop at Behringer. They've named some patches like Behringer patches, but it wasn't. It was something completely different. I really kind of liked. The idea that Roland might have a dig back, but yeah, they're too classy, I guess.
They don't chase analog ghosts.
Yeah, except that's all they seem to do in a digital fashion. Anyway,
yeah.
Just having a quick look in the chat room to see if there's anything worth mentioning, but they're all talking about pants in the bin. Wagyu says, I bet you slept in that t-shirt last night too. No, I don't sleep in a t-shirt. I don't sleep in anything. I can't. I'm sorry to divulge that information, but I've never been able to sleep in pajamas, although when I was a little kid I'm sure I did. No, sorry. Wagyu's remembering 486s with like DX266 with a 33 or a 66 megahertz clock. My first processor in a computer was a Pentium. No, not Pentium. It was a 486 SX25, and then I upgraded that to a DX266, and was really disappointed with because I've been thinking 25 66. That's more than double the speed, but it really wasn't, and that's when I started to learn that it wasn't just a processor that made a computer fast. Yeah. And that it was a real money pit. Yeah. Anyway, look what's just popped up on the screen. There you go. The Roland player, Brother Tiger. Yeah. So I don't know who Brother Tiger is. He's obviously an artist. But in my old age, I kind of glanced at that and saw B at the beginning and ER at the end, and my brain filled the rest in with Uringa. And I thought that they'd done something like that. But yes, you've got some new patches from Brother Tiger in the style of Chillwave, whatever that is, for the Juno 106, JX3P, Jupiter 8 and SH2. There's 2 new Zencore sound packs, Selected IDM and Movement. We've already spoken there about the Jupiter 8. And is this news that you can own the 808, the Cloud 808 for $149 and get 2 patent collections for free? I thought that was the lifetime thing. Was always that was the new part of the new deal. But anyway, There you go. So thank you, Roland. Finally, your website is caught up with us. Right, what should we? Let's keep on the software synth mode here, and let's talk about this one. Complete 13 has been announced by Native Instrument. It launches on October 1st, so we're just a few weeks away. And when you look at that kind of grid of items, you think, wow, yeah, you're getting a lot of stuff for your money. And this is probably, in my opinion, the best way to get into Native Instruments, their ecosystem, because you do get a heck of a lot for your money. Whether that's worth it or not, I guess, is your own opinion. I mean, yes, not all of these are instruments. Some of these are effects packs or voice packs. But you get you get Contact, you get FM8, you get Guitar Rig and Reactor and Massive and everything else that just goes with it, I guess. And all the Scarby stuff is in there, and Replica and we could go on. And it's available in 4 different packages. So you have Komplete 13 Select, which is 12 instruments, 4 effects, 5 expansions, £169. Standard Komplete 13, which is 52 instruments, 16 effects, 24 expansions for £499. Then you have Komplete 13 Ultimate for just under £1,000, 92 instruments, 26 effects, 39 expansions. And then Komplete 13 Ultimate Collector's Edition, which has everything, 96 instruments, 26 effects, 73 expansions for £1,349. And those last 2 you get a drive. I don't know if that's an SSD drive or a regular one. Actually, you can also get it there as well. I think there is a download version, and Komplete Select can come on a USB stick, as the actress said to the bishop. So there's lots of stuff there for your money. I guess $499 is the one that most people will go for. The standard Komplete, which gets you all the flagship stuff. I have to say right now that I'm not a fan of Native Instruments as a whole, because of a number of reasons we shan't go into in great detail, but I'm always tempted when I see a new version of Komplete and think, maybe now's the time to just bite the bullet and get in there. What do you think, Ben? Are you an NI user?
I'm not really. It's one of the companies that I've never really bothered with, and the more I hear about Contact and the libraries that's available for it, I think eventually I'm going to have to take the plunge. The only thing I've ever really used Native Instruments wise has been Battery. I think Battery is really good, and I'm still using an older version of it, but I really like it. I like the way it works, but it's just something about the other stuff. It's never really appealed to me.
No, I have to say that from a user interface or user experience perspective, just don't like it. It's almost like, because I work in like a creative industry that uses things like Adobe Creative Cloud stuff and other authoring tools of images and graphics and videos and stuff. And the Adobe stuff, to me, is the equivalent of Native Instruments. Incredibly powerful, industry standard, but oh my god, it's just not easy on the eye. It's not intuitive. You have to really, it takes a lot of effort to kind of get something. Whereas, there are other alternatives that are far easier to look at and far easier to use, and maybe cheaper as well. But they're not considered industry standard, and so they don't seem to get the love and attention that the others do. And that's kind of I'm just sort of equating that to my experience. It just always seems, but you can't deny the fact that pretty much everything is geared around these platforms. I had a theory many years ago when you were able to, not that I did, but you were able to download a copy of Contact from a peer-to-peer file sharing site, and it would be cracked and you could just authorize it without having to go through the authorization procedure. And I'm not sure if this was like one of those kind of old wives' tales, but I'd heard a rumor that Native Instruments weren't too worried about this practice, because what it meant was that they got an installed user base that they could then sell other things to, and they would get to a point where most of these users were either using it professionally or in some kind of proper way, and would therefore eventually buy into it because they kind of had to, or that they weren't serious users and they weren't really using it anyway, and so Native Instruments probably wouldn't have lost anything by doing that. But the fact that they kind of populated most people's computers with this platform got people into the Contact way of doing things, and then they didn't fancy moving to something else when it became available. So I don't know if that was ever true, or whether it's just one of those made up things you hear on the internet, but I've never been sold on it, and I still want a copy of Contact, but only for technical reasons, for testing and reviewing. I would never use it. I mean, my preferred alternative is UVI Falcon, which I think is far more flexible and far more intuitive and much better. But hey, there you go. Any other thoughts on that one? Do you think you might find yourself dipping into the pocket for the new studio and buying yourself one of those?
Maybe. I've noticed that Cryss has arrived. Have you noticed that?
I have not. No. Let me bear with, caller, and let's do this. Oh, there he is, pretty face. Let's get him in. Let's do a 3-cam shot, and boom! There he is. Cryss, how are you?
Doing well.
You've done your Phil Collins. You've come from London. Now you're in Philadelphia. No?
I have a feeling that this is going to go over like a Led Zeppelin.
Very good, very good. So, fresh from Jamie's show, how are you?
Doing well. Yeah.
You've been
so
to the
you guys
toilet?
were talking about Contact?
Yeah. We were just talking about Komplete 13, which has been announced and is coming out October 1st. And all the wonderful things that you get for your money, and it's not cheap. $4.99 for the standard version, $13.49 for the collector's edition, and there are a couple of other versions as well. Do you use Native Instruments in anger?
I have not used any of their stuff at all, and they really haven't been on my radar, except I kept seeing third-party libraries that seemed kind of interesting. And so this week, in my spare time, I did a lot of just looking at it, researching it. I downloaded the free stuff to try it out. I'm not crazy about their interface. It just doesn't seem as intuitive as it should be for me. And then when I looked at the whole package of what they offer, by the time you get up and level to the things that you really want, there's so much other stuff in there I don't need. Like, I don't need amp modeling. I've already got all that with IK Multimedia.
Yeah.
I don't need guitar and bass, packages, samples. And so the few things that were interesting to me, it wasn't worth the cost of the whole thing. I don't know. If you bought, so the one thing that was sounding good to me was Straylight, which is a little more atmospheric and cinematic. If you can just buy that one thing, and will you get the full Contact player with that, or just the free one? Do you happen to know?
I honestly don't know, but given my experience, probably not. They'll tie you in somehow. I mean, I own. What do I own of theirs? I got all the free stuff, obviously, because you would. And I think I own a few of their products. Or should I say I own... I can't remember who makes it. It's not Sonic Charge. It's something Sonic-y sound. I don't know. Some kind of sample library that came with... that was designed to be used with the free player. And because I've registered that, that entitles me to some kind of discount... over the on certain products, and it entitles me to some discount off of this, but it's so small. And in fact, no, it doesn't entitle me to discount off Komplete. It only entitles me to discount off the Contact full version, and it's not that much. So they don't make it easy for people to get onto the ladder. And I think if they had a more affordable route into this, I think once you're into Contact or Reactor or Guitar Rig or whatever, that once you're in there's plenty of stuff to buy that will enhance your experience. And it's one of the things I've said this before, that I really like about UVI is that you can use their free workstation, UVI workstation, which has a lot of features in it. It's not literally just a playback thing. You get kind of effects and arpeggiators and all sorts of things in there, and you can use that to play their libraries back. But if you want to really dig in and get into the weeds, then you go and buy Falcon, and you get if you've bought libraries, you can get discount, and they do regular sales of that. So yeah, it's I just think they make it really difficult for people to get on board.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of people really slag IK Multimedia for their marketing. And I can understand why people say that, but at least they make it easy to get into the system.
Yes.
And to stay in. Like, with the group buy sales, I mean, usually probably if people haven't done their homework, they're going to get nailed once by them.
Yeah.
For full overprice. But after that, I mean, if you figure out their system, then with points and all that kind of stuff, you can work it to get everything really cheap. And now most of the time, I just wait for group buys, and then you buy up all the stuff that you want for like the price of one thing.
Yeah. There's a quick question in the chat room from Simon, our friend, and his infinite synth cave. He wants to know what that picture is behind you. I'm sure we've had this question asked before, Chris. The sun setting with the mountains. What is that?
Actually, it's just a cloth. So my little studio here is a converted bedroom. And rather than staring at boring closet doors in which hide my various guitar cases and one synth case, it's a little something better to look at. So,
is it anything in particular? Is it of anything, or is it just a picture?
No, it's just like a synthwave looking.
Yeah.
The synthwave art.
Yeah.
I just like the look of it, and it kind of matched. So
with a Zeppelin album cover to the left there as well. Is that the same one you had last week? I can't remember now.
No. This is actually "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd.
Oh, Pink Floyd. Sorry, yeah. I get
Storm
mixed up.
Ferguson.
Yes, yeah, I get mixed up with his covers, whether it's Floyd or somebody else. That's not my question, Rob. Hang on a minute. I thought it was. Who was? Oh, sorry, it was Andrew that was asking about.
It was Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Simon. I can see people are observing my request to tag ProSynth Network in the things, and then it's just making me go all a bit blurry-eyed. Sorry, Simon.
We knew it wasn't Simon because he wouldn't need anything like in the studio because every space is covered by synthesizer.
Yeah,
it's just huge.
Robbie knew it wasn't Simon. He just wanted an excuse to use the infinite synth cave effect,
Absolutely.
which I've got naturally on my voice.
See, I'm making you feel at home now, aren't I?
Ah! Yeah.
I think we should all put a little bit of reverb on and make Ben feel a bit more comfortable about himself.
Yes.
No, not enough of that. I need to say that because we need to get Simon back on at some point because he's laughing his arse off over there.
And Andrew as well.
Yes, indeed. We must get Andrew on. Although, I was on Ranz's show yesterday and Andrew was there with Darren as well. And I feel like I watched some of it back just to see kind of how it came across. And I'm like this, as you well know, I do this very well. And Andrew's just sitting there very patient, just watching. And I think, oh God, I didn't let anybody get a word in edgeways. I feel really sorry, really guilty about that. So sorry, Andrew. But we'll get you on here. We'll give you a platform you can spout off to your heart's content. Right. So that was Native Instruments Komplete 13 is out on October 1st. Priced between $169 and $13.49 UK. I can't know what that is in US, if it's going to be the same or not. Also, by the way, if you watched me on Ranz's show yesterday, I was being bombarded by a fly. I thought I'd killed it. I either didn't or it's come back, and it's now sat on my monitor over there. It keeps bombarding me, and so if you see me going like this, I haven't farted. All right, I'm trying to get rid of a fly. Just so you know. Right, so now we've got Chris here. Let's talk about something that I know he does like. This is new from Spitfire Audio Labs. It's the Monochord, which sounds a little bit like this. Let's have a little listen. It's their second collaboration with the National Theatre and Oscar-winning composer Stephen Warbeck. And it's I think it's a special instrument that was made, and there was a picture of it somewhere, but it's not on this page. But it's lots of kind of plucks and swipes and strums, and it sounds very lovely and atmospheric. It sounds typically Labs. Lots going on there. So that's Monochord. From Spitfire Audio and their Labs division. It's completely free of charge. You can go and download that now. Anybody had a chance to play with this?
not a chance to play with it, but as soon as I'm up and running in here, I think that's going to be one of the first things I download. I think it just sounds really, really nice. It's great for soundtrack work, and it's just something that I can't wait to mess with. Really, Labs have done it again. Spitfire, you could charge for that. People would pay for that.
Exactly.
It's just a really generous instrument to give away, I think.
It is. Cryss, have you? I know you're a huge Labs fan. Have you messed around with this yet?
I've been so busy. I played it for about 3 or 4 minutes, and as I said, it sounds wonderful. That giant thud noise that you probably heard during the middle of it was not the sound set. That was me whacking my hand against the desk.
Ouch. But I mean, it's a microtonal thing, isn't it? This instrument they've sampled.
Yeah.
And it's so impressive what's available for free today, these days. And of course, my favorite free plugin is Valhalla Supermassive. I would talk about it all the time. But you take something like that, and you put it through some really big reverb or delay, and it just goes into beautiful places.
Yeah, no, it's right. Yeah, it's ripe for putting through shimmery stuff, and I mean, all of that. We say this every time. All of the Lab stuff is really excellent quality, and unique. It's even the stuff that sounds like it could be just regular piano stuff. It's different in a really nice cool way.
Yeah.
There's something that is so inviting about it. I just have to say, and I have the BBC Core, but I end up using the Labs most of all. Even out of that, I wish I had more of their collections, but there's something that it just invites you in. I've had Sample Tank forever and I hardly use it. I've checked out this contact-free stuff, and I just don't feel like invited in to make music by these plugins, but something like the Labs and the Spitfire audio stuff has been like, you just instantly want to start creating songs with it. That's good. That's the basis for a song. Let's get going on it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's exactly right. As soon as your hands hit the keys, it's inspiring straight away. They're very musical. But going back to the microtonal thing, I don't know. I think that what it's sampled from is microtonal.
Yes.
I'm not sure about the.
No, the plugin isn't. No.
Yeah.
So I'm stuttering here because I was just trying to think of something. Somebody posted something. I'm going to try and find it now. Somebody had tuned a piano microtonally. And so the entire keyboard of a grand piano had been tuned microtonally into 1 octave. So key 1 was like C3 and key 88 was C4 and everything in between. And
wow.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to find this video because it was just like a guy with incredibly nimble fingers going up and down the keyboard, playing every single note, and it was just fractions going down, and then he gets to the bottom and he goes boom, boom, and it was just like, wow, how cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, microtonal stuff is something I've not really gotten into, to be honest, but that sounds like a lot of fun, and I can't find the video now, so maybe if somebody knows that video, send me the link in the chat room, and then I'll play that a little bit later. But that sounded quite fun. Right, so that's Labs Monochord, which is available through the usual channel, labs.spitfireaudio.com, and you just download their plugin and their management tool, and it just downloads it for you. It's just a lovely little thing. Doesn't take up much space at all. Other big news this week in terms of software was this from Izotope RX8. I had not heard about this at all, so I guess they had a big embargo on press information, and they just dropped it out of the blue the other day. Much to my disappointment originally, because I have not long purchased RX8 with a few other things, and I thought, oh wow, had I known that this was coming a month or two later, I would have waited and gone up. fair play to the team at Izotope. I wrote a polite yet slightly disgruntled message to their support team, and they came back to me and very graciously offered me the upgrade for free of charge. So that was very nice.
Very good.
Obviously they make exceptions per on a per case basis. So don't expect to have bought this a few months ago and then expect a free upgrade anyway. Bloody fly, go away. So yeah, this is great. And if you haven't heard about RX, where have you been? This is an amazing tool. And I purchased this originally. I purchased RX7 about 6 weeks ago to use on the podcasts that I'm doing, because during one particular podcast that hasn't come out yet, which I'm still working on, somebody's neighbour started up their leaf blower. And so in the background, you got this... So I have dabbled with RX7 on that, and it really, it's just impressive. It's just like, wow, what leaf blower? There's nothing there. Of course, a lot of people make a lot of noise about the fact that this can strip instruments or vocals out of audio, just like a regular MP3 or WAV file. So if you're looking to isolate an a cappella or get rid of the vocals or tweak your remix somehow, this is the tool to have. And it comes with a whole variety of functions that kind of operate as individual plugins. So you've got things like noise removal, which as you can see, if you see something in the spectral graph there that is a bit of noise, you can kind of fuzzy select it like you can in a graphics program, and then just pop it out and it's done. And you have a repair assistant that analyzes your audio for all different things, and then it makes suggestions as to what you can do to fix it. And there's an Elements version, which is the standard version. There's the Elements version, then the standard version, and then there's a professional post-production version. Guitar denoising, spectral recovery, music rebalancing. It really is again, I hate to use the term, but it's an industry standard nowadays for audio repair. I love it. I think it's great, and I think for the price, when you just go for the standard version, which I think is $499, it sounds expensive, but I think it pays for itself in terms of what it does. It's almost witchcraft. Cryss, I know that you use Izotope stuff. What are your thoughts on this?
Just barely. I've just gotten so when this came out, I had bought the music production suite, I believe it's called, on sale late August, literally a week before this popped. So same thing, I emailed them and said, hey, I got this music production suite a week and a half ago. Would you guys be able to upgrade me? And so they said, well, if you wait till next month, we're upgrading more stuff in that suite, and you'll just get the suite upgraded rather than just the plugin. Nice. So I was like, that works for me. So I have tried it on some sources. So I had some video, no leaf blowers, but it was a video my wife was doing outside, and it was really noisy, just city noises. And so we sat and played with it, and it did remarkably well. And so for her video, she doesn't really want to mess with a whole bunch of settings. So we did I can't remember what the automatic setting is called, but you check a box and it just does its thing without you messing with it. So for her, it worked marvelously and took out all the background noise. We just tweaked one thing because there was one spot where she got a little bit quiet and it ducked the threshold. Mm-hmm. So we just adjusted that, and it was perfect. So I'm looking forward to trying it on more projects and seeing how it works. But one of the things that got me to use it is because you had mentioned it, Robbie, quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I know with your Sound on Sound interviews, I was like, well, if you're using it for that this has got to be a great product.
Well, I wouldn't say that my word is worth much, but very similarly to you, was speaking to Dave Spears from G4 Software, who swears by this stuff, and I contacted him before I bought it and said, look, this is what I want to do, And he said, "Oh God, that'll do that, and it will do a whole bunch more. It'll do stuff you never knew you wanted to do, and it'll do it, and it'll just be like, wow." And this is, for me, this is the best use of AI and machine learning in music technology. You know, this stuff that comes up with music, you know, the perfect pop song. You know, you can take that and shove it. This is where this technology really, you know, has a massive impact. That you can have a dodgy recording, or you can go back to a mix that you did ages ago, and you can just bring that guitar up a little bit, or you know, stuff that you could never do unless you had the multi-tracks and you were, you know, in the studio. Just this one piece of software on a reasonably powered computer, and it does all of this stuff. It's pretty impressive. Ben, what do you think?
I think when it first came out, my initial excitement was, wow, imagine what you can do with this when you're in an 80s tribute band. You know, it's like, whoa, you could have a really easy life with something like this. But it's while you've been talking tonight, Robbie, it never really occurred to me before. I've got tons of mixes where I wish the drums were a little bit quieter, or the vocal was just a little bit louder. And I think just for that alone, it'd be worth that price.
Yeah.
Because to be able to go, when you've not got the masters anymore, but it's almost so frustrating that you can't listen to them because it bugs you that much. Just to be able to perfect those mixes, that I'd buy it just for that alone.
Do you know, they actually have a plugin that would be, a plugin of RX8 that would work brilliantly right now. It's called D-Reverb.
Wow, that's what I need.
If only OBS supported plugins, and I could just apply that right now.
Right before you said that, Asio had said you can de-reverb Phil Collins music.
Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Yes, but you can. De-reverb, I mean, it's great, you know, when if you're recording like this in a domestic environment and you get some reflections, you know, you can't or you know, won't put up any kind of sound treatment. Or if you just happen, I mean, again, you know, when you think about going to do interviews and you specify that, you know, can we be in a place where there's, you know, there's low ceilings or no echoes or whatever, and you end up in somebody's kitchen, then you know, you've only got this one chance to do that interview, so you're going to do it and hope for the best. And then if you know that you've got this in your back pocket when you get back to the studio, that you can de-reverb, you can, you know, mess around with it, so get the best possible recording you can, and then just use this to finish it up is great.
It is a little bit like Photoshop for audio, isn't
exactly.
it?
That's exactly how it's been described by a lot of people. It's Photoshop for audio.
You know, there's a very musical aspect about this, though. So, you know, probably not thinking about this much in terms of synthesizers, but if you could imagine getting a really great take on, you know, like a Fender Telecaster or something, where you've got 60 cycle hum, or over here 60 cycle hum, but maybe you just nailed the take and musically it's beautiful, but you've got that hum because your guitar was at just the wrong angle to the computer and you're picking up a bunch of noise. Like, to be able to take that perfectly played piece of music, which you're never going to reproduce again, you're never going to just get that magic, and then just strip the hum out of it. That's a pretty, to me, that's what this kind of stuff was made for. It's not to make stuff easy, but to really take quality things that you want to save them.
Yeah. It's great. It's just a fantastic tool, and I'm never ceased to be impressed by what it can do.
It must be like an essential piece of software for like people who do remastering and stuff like that. Now it's a lot of Izotope
stuff is now pretty much standard, and it's become that not because they flooded the market with stuff. They've become that because they are so good at what they do, and you know, there's something about Izotope that I like as a business. You know, they're fairly quiet. They don't, you know, bombard you with all this kind of stuff. They just come out with a quality product that does exactly what it says on the tin and then some. It ain't cheap, but it pays for itself. But you know, specifically if you're using it in a professional environment where, you know, you maybe got a project that's going to pay you if you can get it right, this will get you there without a shadow of a doubt. So there you go. That's Izotope RX8, which is out now. And yeah, you can get a free 30-day trial. And then there are a few different versions. There is an Elements version, which is the simple, fairly basic version, which gets you. Oops, I had the list. There we go. So you get dehum, horizontal scrolling, declick, repair assistant, and voice denoise. That's just the basic one. Then the standard version gets you all of this, batch processing, guitar denoise, music rebalance, loudness control, declick, declip, repair assistant. I mean, all this decrackle, de-reverb, de-plosive, DS. It just goes on. And then the pro version, or the advanced version, should I say, has everything. So dialogue isolation, because that's quite difficult. Things like spectral recoveries in there, ambience matching, scent channel extraction, de-winding. So there's lots of features in all three of those. And say the production suite's $1,500 on sale at the moment. It's normally $2,000, and then I believe RX8 standards currently on sale from $400 down to $299. Advanced is $999 down from $1,200, and Elements is at $99, so with 30 off. So there you go, RX8 from Izotope. What shall we do next? Let's do these from Arturia. So Arturia have been dipping their toe into the effects realm for a little while now, and they've got these three new ones, three modulation effects you'll actually use. So you've got this one, which is the flanger. Then you've got the chorus dimension, which is the bucket brigade delay unit, much like the Behringer one the Clark Technic, should I say, same thing. Which is obviously based on the what was it based on?
Dimension D.
Dimension D. That's it. And then you got the Phaser Bitron, which is kind of like a space age double phaser.
It's a Neutron biphase.
That's it. Yeah. So these are all kind of taking off pre-existing hardware, but in a nice little software package. €99 each, or you can buy all three for a special offer price at the moment of $149, or you can buy it as a bundle with their other FX collection for $299, currently down from $598. I haven't had a chance to try these or the demos at all, but thoughts on these, gents? Anyone got any opinions on those?
Yeah, they're great. Actually, if you own some Arturia stuff, you can get it for cheaper. So I got the whole collection for $49. And the Neutron biphase was one of the ones that I've been waiting to come out in plug-in form. I've had an original biphase, and I've had tons of the Phaser and Phaser 2s. In fact, you guys, I've shown my Phaser 2 have original box. It's pretty great, but to have a biphase on your computer is really wonderful. It's one of my favorite phasers, and the dimension sounds great. It's a chorus. The flanger is interesting. I more go after the old kind of Beatles style tape flanging is what I prefer. So I actually had picked up the Waves. What is it called? ADT or real tape? I don't remember. But it's their ADT one that does flanging, like all the Beatles type stuff between the double tracking and the flanging. To me, like the best flange ever is the ending guitar solo of Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix. And there's some other great 60s tracks where it has that sound. So these mechanical flangers, the Bucket Brigade flangers, have a different sound to them. There's some really great ones. I'm not familiar with the one that this is modeled off of, but that sounds good. It's very versatile. But the Dimension and the Phaser are fantastic, and I'll be using those quite a bit.
Cool. Ben, what about you?
I haven't I haven't had a chance to try them yet, but since Chris has told me that I'll be able to get it cheaper, I think I'm quite interested in them now. I love the potential of what they do, and I'm sure the quality is really good. They look great. So, yeah, they are effects that I would use, definitely. So I'm probably going to add that to the list for when I'm up and running as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'd forgotten about the existing owner offer, and yeah, I've just checked. Yeah, €49. So I think the exchange rate's not too bad at the moment. So that will probably work out about 45 or something. It's not bad for three little things like that. Well, they're saying that I've got T-Rax and the Max version or the Studio, whatever it is, and that's got stuff like this in it. I think, well, am I just buying something I already kind of have? I don't know. Maybe I'll try the demos and see if it stacks up against it. But
well, T-Rax or any IK multimedia stuff doesn't have. If you're specifically interested in the Mutron, it doesn't have that at all anywhere.
Okay.
Because that was one of the things that I've requested to them. Like, hey, why don't you make this exorbitantly expensive vintage pedal for all of us to enjoy? But they haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
They have done it on some other ones, though, to their credit.
Yes. Yeah. And they're talking of IK Multimedia. They've got a massive Labor Day weekend sale on at the moment. I can't remember exactly. I'm not going to type it in now. But yes, they've got lots of offers on, and you can get lots of things for very little money. They do like to do those things. And of course, Labor Day is always a nice little, just before, a few weeks before Black Friday, and then you get all those offers during those times. So it's kind of a nice little warm up period for buying some cool stuff at not very much money. But yeah, Arturia, those three little effects that you will actually use, three modulation effects. He says if I can bring the topic page up, there we go. 149 for all three, but of course cheaper if you already own some Arturia stuff, or €99 each, and I guess there's an offer on those as well. So there you go.
Yeah, I'll also just say that they're. I haven't tried a lot of the other effects. I have the free plate reverb, but I didn't really care for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the of their delay series, I picked up the one that mimics the Electro-Harmonix Deluxe Electric Memory Man. Deluxe Memory Man. I've had. The last one I had was from 1978. It was an original vintage, and I've had some of the reissues. And right now I have the Memory Man 1100, the one with the Panasonic chips, the earlier one. And that's another great old classic pedal that's great to have in a plug-in form, because then you can put it on anything else. And it does, I mean, you can make it sound like the original, but then it also has some stereo width and features that the original couldn't do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like ping pong delay and all that. But I if you love analog delay, that's a great one to pick up as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm kind of moving more into a hardware thing again, so I'm thinking of picking up some hardware effects. So I'm not entirely sure whether I should save my money on some of this stuff and just put it towards a Rev 7 or a Rev 5 and SPX 90 that I'm looking at the moment. Excuse me, but yeah, some interesting things from Arturia there. What shall we...
SPX 90s still fairly inexpensive?
Yeah, you can... What on earth was that? Sorry. Has Ben collapsed or something? I know.
No, I'm looking. I'm looking in my back because I've got an SPX 2000.
Oh yes, yeah.
I might be selling that.
Oh yeah, let me know. You want to chuck that free with that DX7 that you mate's got. Yeah.
Well, I bought the TF5 and it's got 2 effects processors in it, and then I found out that you can use the insert effects as send effects as well. So it works out that you've got 8 SPX 2000s. Very built good. Into the desk, so I don't really need.
That's good. Yeah,
another one.
Yeah, that's because that's kind of like where I'm at the moment. Do I get like a desk with a whole bunch of effects built in, because that's really nice and convenient, keeps it compact, or do I pick out ones that I want and then I'm thinking, that's going to take up more space, and I don't know. At the moment, I'll just make do with my little Behringer that gives me a little bit of this, and that'll do.
Well, hey, Robbie, Native VS says I might be able to get you an SPX 990 for nothing in the future.
Oh yes, it's stolen.
Oh.
Okay, I'll you've piqued my interest. I'm not too familiar with all of this, outboard effect stuff, because it's never really, it's not been something I've ever dealt with. So I'm still kind of learning in that respect. And by the way, have you noticed two new family members? I've got a QX3 now and an RX5, which is most enjoyable. Particularly the instant reverse function. You just press a button and then every sample plays in reverse, and then you can just flick it in and out within the sequence. It's very cool. I
remember when we started this show that Ben had a tiny little room studio, and now he's got great cavernous echo, and Robbie had like 3 synthesizers.
Yeah, if that. Now look at this. Honestly, we're obsessed. Absolutely obsessed. Now, what I plan to do, I was telling Ben before we came on air, is I want to try and build, I built it, but I want to try and connect it all so that the QX3 is now my main composing device, and then all my other Yamaha stuff is connected to it, and I'm just going to make that my workstation, my music workstation, and disconnect from the internet, because you sit here, I sit here with Logic open, and then you get a little ping like somebody sent you a message, and I'll go off and have a look at that. I know I could just unplug the internet or have a separate machine, but I'm kind of forcing myself to go proper old school, because the QX3 has got many things, but it doesn't have a browser and an internet connection, so that's appealing. Anyway, let's have a quick look in the chat room there. Robbie's mad. The desk takes up far more space than Rack FX. This is true, but I don't have space for either at the moment. So yeah, we'll have a look. What else have we got in there? Lots of chat going through. I can't really keep up, so if we've missed anything, do let us know. Simon's just said Don Larkin has quite a few XAir Studio Rev 7s for around £150. Good old Don. He's got lots of stuff there. I might have to have a chat with you later. I'm running out of money and space though. Anyway, let's move on. We've done the Arturia stuff. Let's do... here we go. Here's a freebie. So this one dropped this week from Eventide. Pendulate Chaotic Synth by Newfangled Audio. Completely free of charge. A free download. It's something really quite new. It uses oscillators, or it's kind of based on a double pendulum oscillator to create previously unheard sounds, biting basses, searing leads, and gritty textures. And it's completely free of charge. It's different. It supports MPE. Comes with a whole bunch of presets. Lots of nice kind of visual graphics going on that kind of not just there for making it look pretty, without kind of practical graphics. Low pass gate based on the Buchla 292 adds control for poles and resonance. A wave folder based on the one in the Buchla 259. So it's kind of harking back to some heritage stuff there. Cryss, I know you took a look at this and were really quite enamoured by it.
Yeah, we talked about this on Jamie's show, but I was the only one that really liked it. Well, Jamie hasn't tried it yet, so jury's still out. But briefly, I just downloaded it thinking, well, I'll give it a play and we can talk about it. And I figured it would be decent, but that'd be about it. But I really enjoyed it, just what little I have played with it and spent some time exploring it. It's a free synthesizer, so there's some of its abilities are a little more limited, although still, as you look at it, the modulations and all the things you can do, it's far more than what you'd get on a Mini Moog or something like that. So, but with its oscillator types, it's kind of like exploring more of a West Coast Buchla type sound, but in a format that's a little bit easier for more East Coast type synthesis like us. And so just exploring it, the oscillators are very interesting, that dual pendulum thing and how it causes, I mean, this is really all about wave shaping. So you're shaping the wave in the oscillators rather than just a preset, square wave or whatever. And then you go a little bit further and you've got a wave folder in there, and then the low pass gate. And there's so many different ways that you can go with it. This, of course, is a monophonic, but on Tuesday, they'll be releasing a synthesizer called Generate, which will be a polyphonic version, and it'll have things like a sequencer. It'll have more LFO, I think one more LFO, and it'll have I think 4 types of oscillators. So,
and I guess that's going to be a paid-for one.
Yeah. I think this is the teaser for it, which is cool to do, to get people interested in it. And I kind of look at it like with some of these freebies, I mean, it gets people enticed and it creates a lot of goodwill towards the company. Think about Valhalla recently or this. But the other thing, too, as a side effect of all this, is that there are a number of musicians across the world. We've seen people play drums on buckets, really well, and just kind of part together what kind of instrument that they can figure out and do. And here, if for the price of whatever hand-me-down laptop you got from an uncle or whatever, you've got access to all sorts of plugins, to synthesizers, that MPC beats or that we had just looked at. There's so many good free things to make music that there's not really any excuse that gear should be an issue.
That's a great point, that, especially those Korg plugins that we was on. I can't remember who makes them now, but we was on about them the other week with the Trident,
full bucket music.
Things like that. They're all free, and if you'd add that stuff, when you were starting out, you'd be able to work wonders with stuff that's not cost anything.
I know. I mean, it's when I set my son up with a Mac and Logic and stuff, and I'm thinking, you're going to have to buy him some things, and then you just remember, no, there's Full Bucket, there's NPC Beats, there's all this amazing free stuff that if I had even just a selection of that in 1984 or whatever it was, in hardware form, even just to access it at school or something, it would have been amazing. But all we had was a really beat up Korg 700S. And that was it. But the bug bit. But here we are now, and you can do all of this stuff on a laptop in a bedroom for no more than the cost of that piece of relatively inexpensive hardware, or even an iPad. Nowadays it's so easy to do. Makes me sick. Kids.
That's good.
I don't know how easy they've got it. But no, that's great. I mean, it's a wonderful little thing. And if you want to hear more about what Pendulate can do, and especially what it sounds like when it goes through some effects, pop over to the Sound Test Room on YouTube, where they do a really great kind of review, and they look through, they stick it through a whole bunch of plugins, and the video is not going to load up for me now. Oh, there it is. No, it's not. Anyway, yes, go over to the Sound Test Room, and you can get like a 20-minute review of it and demonstration of it there. So that's Pendulate from Newfangled Audio via Eventide. Free to download. Just go to eventideaudio.com, and there'll be a link from the page there.
By the way, if anybody knows Doug from Sound Test Room, he had friended me on Facebook, and I sent him a message after he did that and said, hey, we would love to have you in the ProSynth network. I love your videos. And he said he was going to make it over, but I don't feel like, I don't want to bug him about it because I get so many invitations for random stuff. I think I got an invitation to like a bicycle club or something. So I don't like to bug people on Facebook, but if somebody is friends with him, please remind them that we would love to have them in ProSynth Network and part of the group.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Pendulate. Let's do this because he's here now. We're going to replug Polyvision for the Sequential Prophet 6, which is from our very own Cryss over at Synthient Sounds. $35 for the Sequential Prophet 6 sound set. There are some. Is this because there was a demo that we played earlier? Have you added another one since?
Yeah, there's a second video now,
which is patches 50 through 19.9. Yeah. Yeah.
I gave you some links. The first one was just a piano patch, so don't play it from the beginning. It won't be that interesting, but I think I gave you a couple links in the chat.
You did, and I haven't bothered. my bad. Let's see if we can get the volume up on this one here. Some more wonderful patches for the Prophet 6. Unfortunately, YouTube is just buffering to hell at the moment, but yes, if you head over to synthientsound.com, and you will be able to access this. If you have a Prophet 6, these are some great new sounds that you can add in there, and there's some demos which are now playing quite nicely. War Machine. I think we heard War Machine last week, or am I just? No. Yes, lovely stuff. Are sales looking good at the moment?
Well, I don't quite have all the spread that Jamie has, but we're doing okay.
Good, excellent. Glad to hear it. Yeah, if you own a Prophet 6, then this is one of those kind of essential things to have, because it's a sound set that goes way beyond what is currently out there, and has a lot of content for a mere $35, which really isn't a lot at all. So there you go.
Worth it.
Yeah. Have you you've got a Prophet 6, have you, Ben?
I've got Cryss's patches.
And what are your
Really
opinions? If you would, as unbiased as you can possibly be.
The shit. No. No. They're really, really, really good. They're much better than the factory bank that came with it. And they're just useful. It's like Cryss he's not programming things he's not doing native dance. You know what I mean? It's stuff that you can see working in a track straight away. Yeah. A bit like what we were saying with the Labs stuff earlier. It's not that it's like that, but it does kind of make you want to start working with the patch straight away. Oh God, that's interesting. I could imagine such a drum beat with that, and you're off. It sparks off the creative process. So, for £35, you'd be stupid not to buy it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is my real thoughts on it.
I've thought about buying it, and I haven't even got a Prophet 6, because you think, well, if I get one, at least I have some decent sounds for it.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to a friend of mine in Canada earlier today, and he's just picked himself up an SY85, which was just the sample only thing, and he said, do you know where I can buy sounds, download sounds for it? And I managed to find a whole bunch of floppy disks that had been imaged and made as download files, and I thought, chances are one day I might actually get assessment. So I've just downloaded those and stuck them away, because they don't take up much room. You never know. So I might just do that, and one day I might get a Prophet 6 if I, something else doesn't come. I was going to get a Hydrosynth, and then these babies over my shoulder appeared. So the Hydrosynth is now on the back burner. But never mind. Sorry, I've got one more thing here to discuss, but I'm conscious of the fact that we've still got about 40 minutes of time. So I do have something else that I want to discuss and fill that time, which I think might be pertinent to something that I put up on the ProSynth Network group today. But let's do this. Now, we spoke about this yesterday on Ranz's show, and it really kind of interested me from the perspective of building one rather than actually what it can do. But this is the Elmyra from Neutral Labs, which they openly admit has been inspired by the Lyra 8. So you can obviously tell that it's got those kind of touch pads on there. But this is it doesn't actually say, it doesn't call itself a synthesizer as such. It's more of a kind of a noise machine, a drone machine maybe. It's completely digital. It's based on an Adafruit Itsy Bitsy Mo Express microcontroller, which I just wanted to go into Polka Dot Bikini Song or whatever it's called. It's 10-bit audio resolution, already gives it a wonderfully gritty sound, and this circuit adds some nasty analog distortion to it. As I said on Ranz's show yesterday, I'm always wary about companies that promote their products as having a wonderfully gritty sound, and is it just because it's not that good, you know, that it's a bit rubbish and it sounds a bit crap? But you know, this is a fairly unique thing. So let's just play a quick demo of it. Unfortunately, a lot of this is kind of just arty-farty lighting rather than noise itself. But it does sound very glitchy, gritty, rough around the edges. However, there is some nice chromatic stuff in here, some nice, you know, musical stuff, as I would say. So I think there's something for everyone here. And it looks, you know, nice and simple and pretty straightforward to use. And I guess, again, this is something else that if you shove this through some large effects, or effects that make it sound a lot larger than it is, you know, for example, your shimmery, verby type stuff, this would sound pretty amazing. So I'm kind of partly interested from a musical perspective. What I'm also interested in is this is available in kit form. And it's considerably cheaper, obviously, if you buy it in kit form. For example, if you're in the EU, you can purchase it from Exploding Shed for €179, whereas fully assembled it's about 300 and something. So it's probably like a 40-ish% discount, you know, if you do this yourself. And I've been looking for something to practice my soldering skills on, which are pretty rubbish. And so rather than destroy, you know, voice cards on a Fairlight, I'd rather destroy something like this, which would be a lot cheaper to replace. So I'm kind of interested in that regard. But sonically, it's interesting. I think I said on Ranz's show yesterday, it wasn't quite up my street. Is this up any of your guys' streets?
Mine, yeah, definitely. I think it sounds terrifying. It sounds like something from Quatermass and the Pit.
Yes.
I was very surprised that it was digital because it sounds really like analogy and gritty. I think I get what you were saying earlier about, like, is it just an excuse because your product's a bit crap? But with that, it does seem like a genuinely attractive quality of the piece of kit.
Shit, sorry.
Oh.
I've just knocked over my my drink near the mixer. So carry on talking, please.
You'll go silent in a second. Yeah. So I would be really interested in that personally. I'm slightly scared at the. I'm too much of a skinflint to buy the ready assembled one. So I'd have to buy the one you make yourself, and I don't think that my skills are quite good enough to make it myself. I'll probably end up getting a friend to do it for me. You know. What about you, Cryss?
I mean, it's always nice to have that build yourself option. Do you know if it was through hole or use a surface mount or some combination?
It's through hole. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that wouldn't be a problem. That would be pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
I think I like Simon's point, and this is where I would be about it with it, is that he's like, it's up against the Typhon price-wise, so, I mean, that thing sounds killer. I think I would have to go in that direction instead.
Yeah. It is. It's a great sound.
Keep going.
It's a great sound, and it's good value.
Yeah,
and
I can see.
I'd like the black one. I don't like the white one.
Yeah, need a VS. There's nothing quite like soldering SMD or some SMD soldering after a pint. It's tough. Like I don't have. I mean, I've done it when I've needed to do it, but I so much prefer working through hole just because I can do it. In fact, on some of the vintage amplifiers that I've what do you call them? Fixed them up, reconditioned them, just made them work. In fact, some of them, a lot of old 60s Fender stuff, old blackface amplifiers. It's so easy to work on that stuff. I mean, there's a low component part count, and then everything's big, and some of my boutique stuff is literally point to point wired, not even having a board on it, just some turret strips. And it's gorgeous to look at. But yeah, the smaller it gets, and especially as we age, then to think about what was it Rands that had the some sort of like a big magnifier that he was using to do surface mount work?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's probably what I would start needing now.
Yeah, so this is what I think. I've probably chosen the wrong time in my life to hone soldering skills, because I'm now on varifocals, which I still, like 18 months on, I'm still trying to get used to how they work. I know how they work. It's just tilting my head in the right way to get the right part of the lens, because these are the ones that they don't look. You can't see the variation, so you have to just wait until. Oh yeah, there it is. So. Yeah. Oh, blimey, that was a bit scary. I'm glad it was just plain old orange squash and not a bottle of wine, because I'm sworn off the wine for a month in a bid to lower my blood sugar levels. Because I'm now officially type 2 diabetic, which is not something I'm particularly happy about. But they reckon I can reverse it, so I'm going to give it a good old go. So first thing out the window is the wine, I'm afraid. But I am treating myself to an occasional. I think I've had 1 or 2 G&Ts in the last week or so, but just a little bit of gin and a lot of low-calorie tonic, and a couple of grappas as well, just because it's apparently clear alcohol is low calorie, or less calorie, should I say? I don't know. Anyway, I almost had to blow my entire synth budget on buying a new mixer, but I think it all went underneath it, and I managed to get it all.
Oh dear.
Oh, blimey, I'm now out of breath. You see, this is why I need to lose weight. Right, so, yes, Elmyra, Neutral Labs, neutral-labs.com is where you can go and find it. Thanks, guys, for filling in and chatting away.
It was flawless.
Yes.
It was flawless.
It felt that way. Simon says, if I learn to solder, I can just send the caps up for me. Yeah. So Simon has offered to come over and recap my my DX5. Not that it needs it, in as much as nothing has gone wrong with it, but it's just one of those safer things to do, particularly on something that's that kind of precious. So yeah, we need to get him over at some point. I'm going to have to watch a master at work, and so Simon, you're still going to have to come over and teach me. And then I'll try. I'm just so frightened. I don't know. I've got so risk averse in my old age that I just don't. I know that if especially with something that's like a few hundred degrees hot, that I could completely mess something really expensive up just by going like that. It just scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, something as old and rare as DX5 is probably not the thing to start practicing on.
Well, you see, I could have done a whole bunch more of work on on the Fairlight stuff, because that there are things that need soldering and resoldering on that sometimes. And I just get my friend in from he's a work colleague, he lives about 25 miles away from me, and he loves to do this sort of thing. He's a real nerd in that respect, so he's quite happy to come over for a I'll buy him a couple of pints, and he's sorted. So I'm quite happy to keep that arrangement going, so long as I don't mess anything up. I'm just paranoid about it.
It'd be really nice to understand it all properly, though. I love that.
Yeah.
I've got a friend, Keith Saxon, comes round, he just flips the top off the synth, and he seems to know exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I've not got a clue.
Yes, it's one of those things where it's definitely a skill. I keep looking at these tools as well, That, you know, because like my friend Howard, he'll have the soldering iron in one hand and the little vacuum pump in the other when he's desoldering stuff, and he just goes like this, and it's just like, wow, that's just beautiful. And then he gets the soldering, he starts, and he's just, because he's done it so often, and I'd be like, no, oh no, have I got the right? I'd be getting this far away from like soldering the thing, and I'd be, oh, hang on, is that the right one? So flip it over, yeah, is that, yeah. I know I'll do it wrong, so I need some stuff to practice on. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know. So that's kind of it topic-wise. We've kind of rushed through it because obviously Cryss wasn't here at the top of the show. We whittled through, or rattled through, shall I say, a number of things. We talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about the Jupiter 8 model expansion and Friktion for Reason and stuff like that. So, sorry, you were going to say something, Cryss?
I was wondering if you wanted to talk about some of the smart EQ or smart AI plugins.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try.
And do you have something else?
Well, I was gonna. Yeah, we can do that. Sorry, I've got this bloody flies back. See, that's probably why I knocked my thing over, because I was muffing the fly. Yeah, I was going to suggest we can do that absolutely, but I was also going to suggest. I'll try and find the stuff now. So I posted something on the Facebook page earlier today, because somebody sent me I can't remember how I came across it, but it was a clip of the Pet Shop Boys on Top Pop, which was a Dutch TV, you know, like a bit like Top of the Pops here in the UK, where bands went on and just mimed their latest hits. And I think somebody sent it to me because it got a DX7 in it, so they thought I'd be interested. And of course, you know, they're just in the studio miming away with, and Cryss is just plonking the bass line out on the DX7. Of course, it wasn't a DX7, but it got me thinking about, you know, how many arguments start on the internet when people say, "Oh, what was used on this record?" and somebody pipes up and says, "Oh, it was this synthesizer," because I've seen them use it in the video. And you're failing to realise that all of these TV studios have a props department, that they just have a few keyboards knocking around. They're probably old ones that are dead, they've bought for cheap, or they have a props company down the road, and they just wheel in, and you know, they just use the standard synthesizer across all the bands on the show that day. Because like the Pet Shop Boys go out, you know, on a promotional tour with all their gear under their arms, don't they? So I just thought if people had kind of suggestions of videos that people had, but somebody put on the on our Facebook group, which I'm just trying to get up here and trying to do this in a professional manner that doesn't bore the arse off of our audience. Let's go here. Oh, it's surprisingly quick. So somebody posted a link, and there was. It didn't involve synthesizers, but it involved guitars, and it was just hilarious. So let me just bring this here up on screen. So yeah, so I posted this clip from West End Girls on Top of the Pops, which I'll bring that up in the background, and then there was also, of course, the classic Harold Faltermeyer performance on Top of the Pops, where he's performing Axel F with a Series 1 Fairlight, which of course never went close to the track. And then there was also the Pet Shop Boys. They seem to be coming in for a lot of stick in this section here. And so let's do this one first. So this is Pet Shop Boys on Top Pop in Holland, with Cryss low, eventually when YouTube decides it wants to play, because it's being really slow. Oh, get rid of the adverts. No, are you coming, going, happening? No. When technology fails, none of this stuff is working. All I can hear is a cat in the background. Here we go. So no, this is a thrilling section here. Why don't you want to work? This is highly embarrassing. Anyway, So I just wondered if anybody had any other instances of, like pop videos or performances on TV where the band were using something as a stage prop that clearly wasn't ever used in, on the real thing, and that it would just be quite amusing. The one I really wanted to show you was this one with the guitar, but it's refusing to load up for me right now.
One of the sad situations, not exactly this, but related. American football and the Super Bowl being one of the biggest holidays in the United States.
Yeah.
They'll have the big halftime show, and of course it's a big to-do about who plays, and they very rarely have rock anymore. I mean, the Who played some years back, and really it's not, I don't think there's been any rock, at least nothing that I would really want to listen to, but they did have a guest spot. I can't remember who the main actor was that year, but it was within the last few years. They had the Red Hot Chili Peppers come on and do a song with whoever the artist was. Maybe somebody remembers. But it was such a bummer because, and the Chili Peppers talked about it afterwards, that they had to mime the whole thing. Basically it was Anthony Kiedis singing, and they wouldn't let them play their instruments. They almost didn't do it, from what I recall. And that's just such a sad thing, that the show is so much more important, the entertainment, than the music is.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think we're having some troubles with the stream. Just bear with me. Yeah, it's showing. Maybe it's because I'm trying to show YouTube videos on YouTube.
I don't think it's going to work with the YouTube.
No. Well, I've paused all of those, so hopefully that will come back anyway. But yeah, it was just amusing to see, because there's always this classic one. There was a massive debate some while ago about what was used on Axel F, and there's this classic Top of the Pops performance by Harold Faltermeyer where he's surrounded on four sides by loads of gear, and at the front and the back he's got a Fairlight, and it was never used on the track, and yet everyone's saying, oh yeah, that classic Fairlight track, Axel F. No, that was mostly modular and analog stuff, with a little bit of DX7 thrown in.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that when you're doing your apprenticeship and you're watching all these TV programs and learning, it's a little bit crap when you're thinking, oh, is that what I need to aim for? And it's not even used. It's not even used in the sound that you're admiring.
This is it, yeah.
Asio had just brought up the Nirvana performance, which was what made me chuckle. But it reminded me of another one that was very funny because Muse had to play on, I think it was an Italian pop show.
Right.
And so they were obviously perturbed about not being able to perform, that they had to lip sync it. Mm-hmm. So they all switched instruments. And so I think like Matt Bellamy was playing bass or drums, and Dom was singing and playing guitar or whatever. I don't remember what the order was, but it was hilarious. And then so they only wanted to talk to the singer, and they kept talking to Dom, I think, who had played guitar and sung on the lip syncing version of that. I thought it was a great way to just troll it, because all the fans would just be dying laughing that they were doing that, but it allowed them to have some of their integrity still. Like, screw you, we're not doing that.
Yeah. I think it was often a thing on Top of the Pops here in the UK, which was like every Thursday night. Certain bands that just really didn't care would swap roles in the band, so the bass player would be on drums and the singer would be on guitar and the guitarist would be doing the vocals. I remember Frankie Goes to Hollywood, who were at number one for like 9 weeks, I think, with Two Tribes. And they didn't I think the video only ever got showed once or twice because it was before the Watershed, and it contained these lookalikes of Ronald Reagan and the I can't remember the name of the Russian leader at the time. No, it was somebody else. The one that was only in there for about 9 months before he popped his clogs. I can't remember. Anyway, it was all a bit violent, so they didn't like to show it too much. So they got the band in most of the time. And after about sort of 5 or 6 weeks, they I guess, like Holly and Paul and Nash, and they just all sat down and said, do you know what? Let's just you play this and you play that. And so I think They had the drummer was playing guitar and the bass player was playing something. It was chaos, and yeah, they just messed around. But when you were young and you were impressionable, you were thinking, "Oh, what's going on here?" It's all a bit odd. But yeah, I wanted to show those clips, and they're not really working. And unfortunately, our stream health is suffering for it. So I apologise for cocking that one up. But there was the clips that I put up as examples were, it was Pet Shop Boys and West End Girls. There was again Pet Shop Boys with David Bowie when they did their Hello Space Boy track together. Chris Lowe is the Prophecy might have been used on that track, but it was not used the way that Chris Lowe was playing it, because he's seen there playing chords on this chord Prophecy, and as everyone knows, you can't can't play a chord on the Prophecy. And then somebody posted this track from, it looked like something like Eurovision or something, where this guy is going into this mad guitar solo, and he sounds like he's got like a Les Paul going through all sorts of stuff, and the camera pans round to him, and he's got this really old kind of Spanish acoustic guitar, and he's just going, and it sounds like it's coming through like a wall of Marshalls, and it's just crazy. But yeah, there's some odd performances, and I just thought it was a fun thing to do. So if you have a favourite performance from any band that they were using equipment that they didn't actually use, and it was quite amusing, stick it up on the Facebook group. But unfortunately, we can't show it with you today.
It always complicates conversations about what gear they actually use on the recording, because inevitably you'll have somebody argue with you that, it showed them playing this on the video.
Yes,
exactly. That was just a video.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I put it up there, because somebody I have these conversations with people say, it was the Fairlight was a classic on this track, and I'm like, no, there's no Fairlight on that whatsoever. Or because I was guilty of assuming some of these things at some point, because I remember being massively obsessed, and still am massively obsessed, with Scrissy Politi's Cupid and Psyche 85 album. And I thought for many, many years that was a really big Fairlight album, that it got Fairlight all over it, because the timing on that is just so Fairlight-ish. And when I spoke to Dave Gamson, who was 1/3 of the band at the time, and he said, no, there is Fairlight on there here and there, but it's virtually none of it is even sequenced, let alone put through a Fairlight. They just basically recorded to a Lindrum track to get it sounding like that, because this was like 84. But a lot of this was recording. It was all very sloppy. MIDI wasn't as tight as it was later on. So they were trying to recreate that, and it was. So I was guilty of perpetuating certain myths about these things. So it's fun, but it does. When you get quite anal about history, it does get annoying when people kind of get it wrong based on the fact that they saw somebody on Top of the Pops miming with that.
Okay, so. but now we can bring it full, do a full circle and come back around. Now we can just go and pull that track into Izotope RX8, strip everything away, and really hear what was used. So now we can finally figure out what's used on. What's the one that everybody always argues about? Was it a Juno or an Oberheim? Crap, it's that band. Sweet Dreams.
Oh, yes.
I was going to mention Sweet Dreams.
Yeah.
Because on the video for that, Dave Stewart's using some really retro-looking computer thing.
It's a drum machine. It's an actual drum machine. It is a drum machine.
Is it?
I don't know whether they used it on the track or not, but it is, because it's a very kind of unique thing. It looks like a TV screen and then a typewriter keyboard, but it was actually a drum machine. Somebody in the chat room, I'm sure, will remind us what it's called. Whether it was used on the track or not, I have no idea. But it is fun sometimes, and it's kind of interesting to pick out. But you could always tell, when the Pet Shop Boys did Top of the Pops, so they were in London clearly, because my colleague that I do the Fairlight stuff with, Peter Wilk, he used to hire his Fairlight to Top of the Pops whenever they had Soul to Soul. They used to use one, and Pet Shop Boys as well. And they used to hire them in rather than carting their own machines in, which is fair enough. I think Depeche Mode were also guilty of some performances on Top of the Pops where they're just like using really kind of just regular synthesizers, and everything on the track is like sampled or a synclavier or something.
Emulator,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Nick Rhodes as well. He was using a Fairlight in the Reflex video. I don't know if there's much Fairlight on that track or not. There's a little bit of sampling going on, isn't there?
From what I know, because the whole of Seven and the Ragged Tiger was made in Australia, and Peter was brought in to manage to manage the Fairlights in there. So
right, yeah.
It's all over that album. I mean, that's a huge Fairlight album if you really want to get into that. Talking of which, I just want, when I bought the RX5 this week, I did a little bit of Googling about it and just called up some information, and everywhere I went they were saying, oh yeah, the RX5, very popular with, and he lists all these artists like Prince, Madonna, Michael Jackson, is used on all of these things. Yet nobody, apart from one band, I'll say who that is in a minute, nobody can tell me which tracks it was used on. And I guess a drum machine is probably, unless it's a Lin that's kind of, it has some unique sounds, drum machines are probably harder to pick out than maybe a synthesizer. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, where the RX5 was used, other than one that I do know, which was Sisters of Mercy, Floodland. That album is all RX5 drum machines throughout. But yeah, if anybody knows a specific RX5 tracks, I'm looking to find what they are. But drum machines, I guess, unless it's a Lin drum and it's like used by Prince where he tunes the rim shot down all over the place. Do you think they're harder to identify than synthesizers?
Well, an 808 and a 909 is pretty easy to spot, isn't it? But then there's other things. I remember when I got my R5. Is it the R5? The Roland R5?
Yeah.
And everything I could read about that was saying what a classic machine it was. It was used on all these songs, but I went and listened to those songs, and you couldn't really tell. I don't know whether they're driving other samples or what have you. Maybe a big part of that particular, I can't even remember what it's called. It's the feel of it, isn't it? It's the human feel. So maybe it's not so much the sounds, but how it plays the rhythms back.
I think also it's the fact that drum machines were mostly a product of the sampling age. There was obviously things like the 808 and around that time that were all analog, but there were mostly sample based. Lin drum onwards had samples in, and so after a few years, every drum machine probably had a cartridge or sounds that could just be uploaded to it that were mimicking those other drum machines, just like you can with samplers. Everyone's talking about is this synthesizer or that synthesizer. Well, no, it could have just been a sample of that synthesizer, and in the mix it's incredibly difficult to extract and identify. So Sam Larry in the chat room is saying, that's where I would start up here, RX is the sound of Rick Astley and the Stockhake and the Walkman. Oh, so that's interesting. It's all over the Jesus and Mary Chain's Darklands as well. So I'll definitely check those. Anybody else got anything else? I apologise about the slow frame rate on the video. I'm hoping that we're coming back, because it says now that the stream health is back to normal. Let me just try something here. I'm conscious that maybe if you want to get back to better video, you might have to pause and start again, or just refresh and come back in, because it's telling me now the stream is healthy. So we had a bit of an issue, but this is something I've found everyone's having on YouTube at the moment, so it's just one of the things we have to live with. So any other recommendations of where the RX5 was used? And a lot of people have been telling me to get the how do you pronounce it? Gli, GLI. It's like a cartridge that goes in the waveform ROM cartridge on the RX5 that you can then upload your own sounds to. So I think it comes with a bunch of 808 and 909, so that'd be interesting. Anyway, Cryss, you wanted to talk about smart or AI effects again. And was there something in particular you wanted to
well, we had visited that topic a few weeks ago, talking about Sonable's reverb, their smart reverb.
Yep.
And so at that point, I hadn't played any of that stuff, but I did end up picking up several different smart, quote-unquote, smart plugins. And so one of the things I had hypothesized is that it could be used as sort of a second set of ears in order that you could try something that's different that gets you out of your box. Mm-hmm. Because, of course, with these, and I think maybe, Robbie, you had said something earlier to the effect of people worrying that plugins like this will just allow people to kind of make, I can't remember how you said it, but not have any skills to make music, or something to that effect. And so I think, for beginners, it can probably help teach them how to use some of these things that are a little bit harder to use for beginners. I mean, distortion or reverb, like, okay, those are pretty easy concepts to understand, but EQ and compression are probably a little bit harder for people. And this is where, like for Sonable, there's also Gulfos by Sound Theory, and a number of other plugins that will do this sort of adaptive or smart, where you play part of your track and then it calculates given a certain preset. But I have gotten to play through some of this stuff fairly briefly, experimenting with Sonable's Smart EQ, mm-hmm. and also the Smart Compressor, just to see what it would do. So I took an old track that I had recorded, and had some acoustic guitar on there and vocals, and it was just like a regular band arrangement. It happened to be a cover of John Lennon's Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out. And so I was like, well, here's a track I've already done. I've already EQ'd it and done everything to it. Let's see what it would do. So I copied the tracks and just started over with these plugins. And it was kind of interesting to see what decisions it would make in it. Now, I think the designers of these plugins also say the best results are when you interact with it. It's not just a set and forget and let it do its thing. But so I put it on a track. I selected appropriate, whatever, acoustic guitar, and then vocals, and let it do its work, and checked it out. And I had somewhat mixed results with it. So I didn't love it. I ended up would tweak things a little bit after I let it do its smart work. But some of the choices that were made were rather interesting. The vocals, my vocal EQing was like, I thought much better than what it did. But with the acoustic guitar, I thought it made some really interesting decisions. And so in terms of compression and EQ, so with the EQ was a little bit different than what I had recorded it for and for its purpose, but it sounded good. So I had no problems with that. And if that had been the EQ of the track, I wouldn't have any problems. The more interesting thing was with compression, is that when the smart compressor did its work, it ended up being quite a bit more compressed than what I had done.
Right.
And I thought, I try to be, work in moderation, especially with things like compression, because, we've heard so many artists that will just come out with a track that's just super overly compressed. And you're like, well, sometimes it works. I mean, listen to Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Chili Peppers. That's got an absolute buttload of compression on it.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous amounts. And I would never think to do that much compression, but it works for that album, I guess. I don't know, maybe it would sound better another way. But with the acoustic guitar, the choices that it made, it compressed my acoustic guitar way, way more than I would have naturally done. And so it was kind of interesting to hear a different take on something that I had recorded, because I don't have anybody here as a second pair of ears unless I send the track to somebody. But to be able to use that as a means of trying something new, like to think outside the box in a way, I thought was an interesting strategy. And I liked the way that it did that, because I would have not moved the compressor into those kind of extreme settings. And when the plugin itself did, and I listened to it back, I'm like, there's some merit to doing it like that. So, the other, Sasquatch just writes, just wondering, oh wait, no, that wasn't.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was going to ignore that one.
I thought he was asking about artificial drumming plugins, which actually Logic and GarageBand has.
Yes.
And I do make use of that because if it works for the track, and you go through, and you still have to do a fair amount of work for finding the right combination of things, but it makes life easier if you can. So
yeah, quite.
I don't know. Have you guys used any of these smart plugins, whether be modulations or ambience or compression or EQ?
Ben?
I've not, but I think I think it sounds interesting, and it's interesting to hear that Cryss thinks that the vocal EQ was probably the most disappointing, because I think that's kind of the most, well, for me anyway, I think it's the difficult one, the most difficult one to just shove a kind of template to, because the voices are so different, the microphones are so different, and it's a very personal thing, I think. But I'm not sure how they work. Is it like they have like an example kind of waveform that they're aiming for? Is it like, this is waveform A, and we want it to sound like waveform B, so we've got to do this to it I don't really understand how it's working.
I think it's, so depending on the plugin, so if I were to guess about the Sonable stuff, so they have presets. Well, I don't know if preset is quite the right word, but you select an algorithm, a particular algorithm for the type, so vocals or guitar or keys or drums, whatever. And at some point it's got to have some sort of reference, like a very generalized reference, but then it's also analyzing the structure of what you have put into it and making some calculations about where it needs to make cuts. Now, I think the more sophisticated one, I guess you would say, would be Sound Theory's Gullfoss, and the technique that's behind that is a little more complicated. It has to do with some like really serious scientific studies and about the ear and adapting to. Wow. And that one makes so whereas Sonable's Smart EQ, it makes kind of a static adjustment, and you might need to have a different one for the chorus versus the verse.
Right.
Gullfoss is a little more, put it at the end of your, in a mastering stage, and it makes something like, I'm sure I have the number way off here, but just to kind of give you an idea, it's not making like 10 adjustments per second. It's like 300 or, it's in the hundreds, I believe.
Wow, yeah.
Where it's making so many adjustments, fine-tuning it, and it's somewhat follows a pink noise curve, as I understand it. But they're still doing other sort of psychoacoustic analyzation to it.
Makes you wonder where it's going to end, though, doesn't it? Are we going to get things that's like you're saying, it's making adjustments all the time? Like compression could end up a thing of the past, with like mixers adjusting things automatically, doing the job of compression.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of machine learning involved, where the developers are feeding information in and saying, this is a track that has little compression, and this is a track that has a lot of compression, and this is a track where compression is applied to this, and then it just learns that, and then when you feed your track through, it goes, oh well, it's sounds a bit like this one, so maybe this is where we apply that. That I think that's how Izotope do a lot of their artificial intelligence, through machine learning, which seems is the buzzword. I noticed in the chat room, apart from the casual drummer abuse in there from Sasquatch, which I won't take offence to. People are suggesting, for example, Asio Head says, I need a track finishing plugin. Wagyu wants a robot that wires everything together for me. Asio Head then goes on to say, I could use someone to kick my ass once in a while. And there are all sorts of things. And I actually came across, I was looking through, for AI stuff, and a lot of it is effects related, which I think is fairly understandable. But there's this, which kind of worries me, and this is Orb Composer, and you get 4 plugins, one called Orb Chords, one called Orb Melody, one called Orb Bass, and another called Orb Arpeggios. And this again is all AI powered melody makers, AI powered chord makers, and it really is scary that something exists where somebody can just sit down with something and come up with a tune, and it might be a really good tune, but all they've really done is they've kind of maybe put in a few notes, and it's the machine does the rest of it for you. And then I thought, when I was looking through this, I'm thinking, well, I remember in the 80s when Fairlights were coming in and sequencers and all of this stuff, and the BBC, the Musicians Union was all up in arms about, how these things are going to take jobs away from real musicians, and it never happened. So, mate, I'm pretty confident that won't happen. That in 50 years' time, all music is made by AI and machine learning plugins, because I just don't think human beings would stand for it. Not from a political or that kind of perspective, but we just couldn't handle perfection, because that's what these are ultimately aiming for, is perfection. And fortunately, should I say, human beings like imperfection. We like the fact that things are detuned slightly, because it makes it sound more expansive, or more we like imperfection. So I'm kind of confident that we won't be taken over, certainly not in my lifetime, by the machines in terms of music making. But what bothers me is that someone can go out and buy this and think that they can come up with a hit record without kind of putting the hours in. And it reminds me.
I don't.
I was just going to say that this reminds me of once when I was working in retail many years ago, probably about 30 years ago. I was just kind of really getting into Cubase, and I was telling anyone that would listen, oh look, you can do this, and then they were going, yeah, whatever. And there was one guy that I was working with that it showed an interest, and he said, oh, I've made something that I'd like you to listen to, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, sure. So I made it at home. Oh, great. So I'm imagining that he's got, set up similar to mine, computer, maybe some hardware, because this is, before plugins really, and, he's made something. And he brings it in and he puts it on. I listen to it, and it's kind of electronic-y, dance music-y type thing of the day, in the 90s. It sounds okay. I said, oh, this is pretty good. What did you use? Oh, I used this this game on the PlayStation called Music 2000. And I looked into it, and Music 2000 is just basically, it provides you with a bunch of loops, and you just put them together. But he was so enthused and so proud of what he'd done, and to a degree, rightly so. He'd created something from nothing, but all he'd done is pieced sections of recordings together to come up with a piece of music that was very formulaic, because you were limited to what they had in this pack. And I was very respectful and polite and said, yeah, it's good, yeah, keep going, you might want to expand and do something. And I don't know whatever happened to me. He's probably a top record producer now or something, but it was all done on a PlayStation 1 with this thing called Music 2000. And I thought, blimey, this sounds remarkably polished. Oh, well, there you go. That's why, because it's just a whole bunch of loops that you can put together. So yeah, it can be disconcerting.
We're not at the level where machines have good taste, and that's what's always going to make a difference. I think even like with sound design or songwriting, You have people who know all the tricks and the science to it, but they can't make good music. Even like, shredders, for whatever instrument, I'll use guitar. There are these chair sitters on YouTube that just burn up the fretboard, but they can't write a song to save their life. But they're very technically skilled. Or you have sound designers who are pumping out sound sets because they know how to turn a filter knob, but they're not knowing where to set it, really. They're not being able to hone in on that magical place. They can't hear it. And I think that's a thing that I don't think this AI stuff is going to take over anyway, because, as you said, we do love imperfection, but we also love good taste. And that's that's the part that I would add to it, is that, and it was, I shared before, like, I think it was Dave Pensato was talking about mastering or make whatever he does, mixing or mastering. And he's like, people don't pay me for what I know, they pay me for my taste. Yeah. And here's one of the people that are most well known for that, but he's like, it's not the plugins that I use, it's not my fancy gear, it's because I have a good ear, and which means I have good taste. Yeah. And I think that's really the thing. And so looking at, some of these, music creation software or whatever, like it gets hard to define where the line's at, because if you use Scalar to help figure out some chords, is that cheating? Cheating? I don't know if the video's still playing or not, but or anyway.
Well, yeah, it's funny because like my son has had an iPad for, I don't know, a couple of years now, and one of the first things that he started to play around with were some of these kind of apps that have libraries of loops and stuff, and you put stuff together, and it's it's very formulaic and generic and what have you. But he's now playing with Logic, and he's making his own compositions. So if it's a tool to get you into it, if it's a tool to light the spark that turns into a flame, fine. And I don't, like I say, I don't think it's going to take over the industry. And Wagyu says in here, a hit isn't what I'd buy. It's these things are going to make kind of like things that are going to go to number one in the charts, which is irrelevant now. It's not the stuff I would buy, but it's the stuff that clueless teens. Sorry, that fly's good again. Clueless teens will probably go into. And I had an example. I bought. It was Record Store Day the other week, and one of the things I picked up was a new pressing of Roxy Music's debut album, which is just an absolute work of art. And I got it on my desk, and my daughter comes in. She's 16. She sees the cover, and she goes, "Oh, who's that then?" I said, "Oh, it's Roxy Music." And she goes, "Who are they?" So I opened up the gatefold sleeve, and there's a picture of every member of Roxy Music, circa 1972, 73, and all their, in their glad rags, and Brian Eno looking very alien-like and what have you. And I've got the albums playing, and she's like, "Ooh, this is a bit weird." And, I guess to some ears it is, it's weird. But, she listens to Korean K-pop, which is all, this kind of very deeply formulaic stuff. And she thinks that's the pinnacle of great music when, it's... Yeah. And hopefully, she did show an interest in Led Zeppelin once when I was playing a whole lot of Love and jumping around my room, and some Gary Newman she kind of liked, and I've taken her to see, some half decent bands, but doesn't seem to have stuck. But hey, you never know.
It's interesting because when I was starting out, I was listening to well, when I was really getting into like producing the start of producing music, I was listening to things like Trevor Horn and like really wanting to be able to reach that point, where everything can sound so fantastic. It's like such a glossy production and everything. And now, like the DAW environment tends to be like that, doesn't it? Everything is absolutely pristine, and we kind of spend a lot of our time messing things up now to make it sound more natural. It's like when we add the stuff that would have sounded like that, we were striving for the perfection, and when the perfection became the norm, we wanted to mess it up again. So I really don't like that perfect pop production that they have. You know, there's no soul in it at all. It's like everything's straight lines. It's the vocals got no wavering in it or anything, and it's just, it's not really what I want to listen to.
I'll tell you what I have noticed in my old age when I'm listening back to like especially 12-inch mixes, and now I fully understand how those were made. And when you think back in, you know, in the like the pinnacle of the 12-inch mix era was sort of, you know, the late 70s with disco stuff, and then into the, you know, the early mid 1980s with, you know, Trevor Horn pumping out 16-minute mixes of something. And back then they were the most perfect things that I'd ever heard, you know, and it was like, you know, 10 minutes of, you know, this great pop song. Now I listen to those same mixes and I can hear the tape splicing. I can hear that shift in the EQ that's slightly different because they didn't have you know, doors like we have nowadays, and so they were, you know, cutting tape and marking tape and sticking it together to make it go. And it was only like 1985, I think, when Steve Lipson managed to synchronize 2 Sony digital tape recorders to get the loop for Grace Jones's Slave to the Rhythm, where you could just make something that would last as long as the power was switched on and the play button was pressed down, without any kind of, you know, noticeable shift in anything. But I really do notice it now, and I'm almost slightly disappointed that it's slightly imperfect in that respect. But then, you know, when it was important, it was the greatest thing we'd ever heard, you know.
I was in Strawberry Studios in 1987.
Oh yes,
and I had the great fortune of working with Chris Nagel, he's a great sound engineer. But I remember the producer at the time said, "The song's great," he said, "but I really wish that we'd halved the middle 8. It just goes on too much."
Yeah.
So Chris just like queued up the tape, you know, like got it to the right point, just slice that section out, put it back together again, and played it. It was absolutely seamless.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the balls of steel kind of thing, because if you get that wrong, you mess the whole thing up.
Screwed.
There's no undo.
I mean, I found myself that I have a kind of a knack now, because I'm so used to editing spoken word, because I do it for my day job, for, you know, narrations and stuff, and voiceovers for learning. But I also do, you know, this podcast thing, that I've now got an eye for sound. I can see exactly where I need to go to find a thing. I don't necessarily need to use markers or listen to something, you know, speed it up, slow it down. I can see it. And I actually had an instance today where Ed Buller, who's is one of he was the producer of Suede in the 90s, and is also, you know, part of the school of Hans Zimmer. A really great producer. He was also in the Psychedelic Furs. He posted a clip of the Firebird Suite by Stravinsky, played by Stravinsky on a piano in 1921 or something, and basically it's a piano roll recording. And so that was like a really early door, because the pianist would play and it would, you know, punch the holes wherever it was on the roll, but then you could then feed that roll back through and an overdub, so you could play other parts. So, you know, there are certain sections of this thing where you think it's impossible, it's not 2 hands. No, because it's about 6 passes through the machine, and they just play these, they layer them, which was fantastic. But what I wanted to do is, because the Firebird Suite is the class, is where they got the Orchestra 2 stab from the Fairlight, you know, the famous one, and I wanted to hear what that sounded like on a piano in 1921. So I've got this waveform, this digital waveform on this website, and I literally went straight to it, because my eye knew and my ears could hear what the Firebird Suite's like, and I knew that there's this point. And I was like, whoa, I need to get out more. This is just crazy. But yeah, it's funny you say it's that. But of course, you know, when Chris was doing it, like you were saying, you make a mistake, that's it.
Yeah.
That entire tape is destroyed. You got to re-record it. You know.
No, yeah. It was brilliant. It's such a skill.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, nowadays, you know, you just feed it into a DAW and it'll probably pick it out for you, and you just go snip, snip, boom, done. You know, it's crazy, but beneficial. Anyway, it's an interesting thing, and I think we'll be talking about AI and machine learning and on all of that. I mean, that Orb Producer Suite is just €99, and you know that's very affordable. You know, I say that with all due respect to everyone. Whatever financial position you're in, the $99 or €99 for a piece of audio software is affordable, and that's 4 plugins that you can throw into your digital audio workstation, of which you can get for free, and probably start coming up with music that sounds chart worthy, if that's you know any grade of quality, which I don't think it is anymore. But anyway,
No.
but I think we've filled and overfilled. We're now at 10:15, so I think we should wrap this up because I'm out of drink because I spilt it, and I'm getting very dry in the throat, and I'm going to start coughing like a good one soon. So let's wind this up. Thanks ever so much, first of all, to Cryss for joining us from Jamie's show. I think you probably need to deserve and have a lie down. Have you got anything special lined up for Labor Day weekend? You're going to just kick back tomorrow and put your feet up?
Absolutely. I think I've earned a day off. I spent yesterday helping a friend fix a carport covering and put up some lattice work, and it's been radically hot here. It was 108 yesterday. That's in Celsius. Let's see, it's like 109 right now. That's what, 42.778,
It's
right?
ridiculously
Check my
hot.
math there.
Wow. That is.
I'll take your word
I might have looked it up beforehand and just wanted you to think that I did that calculation.
No, I've got some friends, work colleagues down in Southern California, and they were saying that they were predicting up to 116, I think, in some places.
Yeah. Let's see, my parents' house right now is at 115.
Wow.
It's inland a little more, so.
That's crazy hot. Crazy hot.
Yeah, so passing out on the couch with some AI plugins, maybe.
Yes, and don't put too much aircon on because of the rolling blackouts. You don't want any of that. That's awful. Again, that's friends telling me that these rolling blackouts because everyone just throws their AC on and they can't handle it, so they just switch the power off indiscriminately, which is pretty bad. Wow. Not good. Anyway, Benjamin, I am imagining that you are going to, in your spare time, be finishing up or carrying on your work on your studio.
I'll be sorting out the acoustics. Even if it's just temporary for next week. It's so off-putting. I've really felt strange talking tonight. The reverbs really put me off.
Yeah, get some blankets, temporary. Close those curtains for us. Have you got curtains or just shutters?
No, I haven't got any curtains.
Oh yeah, get some.
I'll get some.
Get some fabric. If I didn't, rent this place and I could do what I wanted to it, I would, be, hammering foam to the walls as much as I could, but I can't. So I just have to do.
Your acoustics sound brilliant compared to mine. So
it's because the bloody room's full of shit now. So it's all softened.
I think Ben's about to give a homily or something.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yes. So okay. Well, yeah. Good luck with that, and keep us informed with the pictures and everything.
Yeah.
And that'll be cool. That'll be cool.
What about you, Robbie?
Well, funnily enough, because I work for an American company, I often say, "Oh, if you guys are having like Monday off, can I have Monday off too?" Jokingly, because normally, our holidays. I think you guys probably have less than we do over here in the UK or Europe, but they're also staggered differently. So we had bank holiday weekend last weekend, and now you've got Labor Day. Well, funnily enough, my boss's boss's boss, who is like the VP of the organisation, we had a call on Friday, and she is absolutely fantastic. And she said to everyone that was on the call, she says, "Right, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care what meetings you've got, what projects you're working on. Today is the Friday before Labor Day weekend. You're all going to finish work at midday, so have half a day off." And there's like me and like a handful of others in the UK, and we're like, what? And then she turns around and says, for all you guys, you can have half of Monday off. So I'm going to have half a day tomorrow. So I'm only going to work in the morning, and then I'm going to have the afternoon off. So I'll probably just sit around here doing music-y stuff.
Very nice.
And yeah, researching and rewiring that. I'm gonna get that all like a DX rig and do everything and see if I can make some music, because that'd be a change. I'm surrounded by all this gear and I don't make any music anymore.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. And I'm going to kill this fly that has been bombarding me all evening and yesterday afternoon.
You got to figure out how to do both in one stroke and use sonic waves to kill it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I have this thing where I like to try and see, because it's like a sport. If they're sort of nestled somewhere, I like to try and creep up at them and then flick them, and then, so they hit the wall, and then you can just get them. So he's right; he can hear me now. But my daughter hates spiders, and because we live in the country, we get quite a few spiders, and they come in because all the windows are open. But she makes me kill them all or get rid of them somehow, and so that's why these flies are coming in and they're not getting swallowed up by the spiders. Anyway, nature,
well, In America, we have these things called screens.
Yes.
It allows the air in, but not the bugs.
Yes, I know. It's and we have them in Italy too. Screens, or these shutters that you can have, and it just makes it all the much more pleasant. But here in the UK, we like complaining about stuff. It's like I live in the countryside. I'm surrounded. The nearest town's about 7 miles away. The nearest proper town is about 20 or 30 miles away. So we're right in the middle of the country. And of course, this time of year, harvest has happened. The farmers are out on their fields, and what are they spreading around? Shit. Lots and lots of steaming piles of shit.
Yeah.
It happens.
Stinks.
It stinks. But do you know what? I don't mind it, because I've lived in the countryside all my life and I'm really used to it. And it happens every year and it doesn't last long. And we still get people moaning, "Oh, can you smell that?" Well, yes. How do you think your food comes out of the fields? So it's just really, really... British people love complaining.
Yes.
They really do. Hate it. Anyway. That's that. That's another
He's
show.
Complaining about the people complaining.
Oh yeah, there you go. You see, it's just a never-ending thing. Yes. Anyway, that's the end of the show. Thanks ever so much to everyone in the chat room for sticking around. Imperfect says, "I need a bug zapper in the studio." This is true. Nice big blue one. Yep. Get those buggers. I had some of those sticky strips, and every time I unfurled them, I kind of like let go, and they would swing and get stuck to the wall and leave nasty marks everywhere. But
hey, if you get one of those bug zappers, those blue ones, you need to sample that and then give us the samples to make into sample instruments.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That'd be good. Yeah.
You have 2 packs, one of it just humming and the other of the fly actually being zapped.
Yeah, we could do like a music concrete thing where we make everything from the same sound.
Yeah.
And I'll concentrate on the drums. I think Cryss is good at synth sounds.
I was brought up in a restaurant for some of my youth, young years, and my dad had one of those blue ring fly zapper things, and I would deliberately try and usher flies into it, just so I could go love it. I wasn't the sort of kid that pulled legs off spiders, but I did shoo flies into bug zappers. So there you go. Anyway, thanks guys for your company as ever, and I'm sorry for any of the technical issues that we had. I think we mostly got over them and through them. The stream has been healthy for a fairly decent time, so that's good. And join us again, same time, same place next week, 8 p.m. UK. 3 p.m. on the East Coast, midday on the West Coast, and of course join us in the Pro Synth Network Facebook group for regular shenanigans there, and post your links to videos of artists using instruments that they didn't use on the stuff of that. I'll be interested to see a lot more of those.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we're out.